Okay, hi, I'm Dan from Healthy Harvest, and I'm going to show you how to assemble one of our Warre hives today. So in your box you will receive boxes, hive boxes, which there are usually 3 of unless you ordered more. Handles for the boxes, including hardware. This is a frame. You will receive some frames, many more frames if you've ordered frames. This is the quilt box. This is fiberglass for the quilt box. General screws, and also these wooden plugs which you insert into the plug holes which have been drilled into all the wooden components. A roof, plus hardware for the roof, and a base, and again hardware for the base. I've also included the 2 types of drill bits that you're going to need, and they're in bags. In this bag and in this bag. Some of the tools that you're going to need to use are an impact driver or a cordless screwdriver. Alternatively, if you don't have one of those, you could possibly use a screwdriver which allows the fitting of these heads which you'll get in the pack. Now ideally you'll have 2 or 3 clamps that you can use. These things aren't absolutely necessary, but they're going to make your life a lot easier. Are the clamps, a piece of scrap wood, a square of some kind, be it like this, be it like this. The reason I'm using a piece of scrap is for something to push against when I'm screwing in the screws. If you're using a workbench in a workshop, you could just screw this onto the table. I am not. I'm doing this in my house because it looks a lot nicer than my workshop. So I'm just going to clamp this down for the moment, like so. Now we can push wood up against it while we drive in the screws to get a nice tight fit. So let's get on with the first element of the hive, which is the base. So first we're going to put the base together. So this is the main part of the base and the small hive beetle trap, the legs of the base, and the rails, and a packet of screws. So I'm just going to take off this tape that's holding the pieces together, but I won't take the tape off that's on the actual part, because that's going to help us put that together. We'll take off the actual label on each part once it's been assembled. Now with all my labeling, we have a front, a back, a left and a right, and that goes for every part in this kit. So we're always going to start with the front piece, which is labeled F. The item in the circle is a description of what element we're doing, so that's a B for base. So front goes towards me. This is B, base, back goes away from me. This is all pre-drilled, so then we just sit on the base over the holes. I'm just going to move this away from this. I haven't got quite enough space. And set it up so we can line up it all, ideally all together at the same time, but if not, we'll do it in parts. Okay. So we have one of the rails that's labelled base, left L for left side, and direction towards the front, and the front's towards me. So that should go on there. If these things don't fit pretty much perfect, then you've put them on the wrong way. B for base, back, and again with an arrow to F, which is the front, goes on the back. And again, B for base, right side, direction towards the front. All my labeling, by the way, is on the external or the top part of each object. So these are on the top, this is on the external side. Should never have the labeling on the inside of an object. We'll simply put the screws in. Like I say, these are all pre-drilled, so you can't really get this wrong, and if you shouldn't be able to get this wrong. Like that, if that happens, it's not in the hole. Simple as. Try again. So let's just have a look at how this should look when it's finished. Okay, let's move on to the next piece. The next piece we're going to put together is one of the boxes. Now at this point you want to be using glue. I'm not going to use glue for this demonstration, but I will demonstrate on how to do it. I don't have a lot of space on this table. I would advise you choose a much bigger table. My workshop table is much larger, but I'm doing this inside. So I'm just going to lay the boxes out as we see them. So back is towards you, left side to my left, right side to my right, remembering that the lettering or the numbering is always on the outside. And we lay it out as so. Now where you want to glue is along where the holes have been drilled. So we would apply glue along here, apply glue along here on this piece, apply glue there, there, before trying to assemble it. So there's a couple of ways you could do it. You can take clamps and clamp it all into place. Ideally you want to use about 4 clamps for this, and they all have to be wider than 400 mil. If it's something you haven't got, I wouldn't advise going out and getting it just for this job. The way I prefer to do it in this situation, because we're drilling into pre-drilled holes, which makes it a lot easier, is just to take 2 of your boards at one time, imagining the glue is along here. So let's turn it around so we can see. I'll just line it up like so. Now as long as you've got your numbers from each box lined up, you've got your front, left, right and back all in the right place, and everything's facing the right direction, upwards that is. everything will just line up. Go very easy on tightening these. At this point, because you've put glue on it, you will see glue start to leak out. More glue is better than less glue. At this point, you get a damp rag and wipe it off immediately. Wash your rag immediately, rinse it out, and get it ready to go again. Just put that to one side. Again, get the other one. This would be glue. Taking 3 screws. Oops. Lining up those pre-drilled holes. In terms of gluing at this point, you would want to apply glue again over the drilled holes. And let's just put this together. Make sure we do it correctly. Nope, that's upside down. The whole thing's upside down. Yep. There we go. Now, you can just do it upwards like this. Again, looking for your drill holes. And this just makes sure that we've put all our holes in. Oh, missed one. All our screws in rather. Before we move on to the next thing. Let's just check to finish off that our little rebates for where the I forgot what they're called. Oh my goodness. Where the frames sit is on our top. So we have the 11mm rebate on the top. Super important. All our writings facing upwards. And we have front, left, right, back. Okay, we can move on to our next box now. We aren't going to build another box, so we'll just move on to putting handles on these boxes, which I would recommend you do once you've finished all your boxes. Our next task is putting the handles on the boxes. You'll see from the shape there's a pointed bit. That's the top to allow rainfall to run off. And we're going to lift from this bottom section. So we have a number at the beginning, which is a number 3, which lines up with this box, which is box number 3. We have a left and a right handle. So we're going to take some of the handle screws, which are the grey countersunk screws. Countersunk meaning they will screw into a pre-drilled little hole to so that the screw's not sticking out on the inside. That's important. These ones would if you put the wrong ones in. 3 per handle. Just gonna put the screws into the holes by hand with one little twist so they just stay in place. And then drill them until they pop through the other side. Just to make it easier so we can attach the handle. And let's line up the drill holes, the drill marks. We can just start with one, making sure that we are left on left. Just went a little bit tight with that. I should have also added, I'm sorry, that we should be gluing this. We should be gluing every compartment, every part of this hive, apart from the base that doesn't require any glue. Every other part's going to require glue. Okay, the glue is stronger than the screws. Do the other side. Turn this towards you so you can see. Making sure that the handle is facing up, making sure that our box is still facing up. This is the top part. We can just glue on here. We just find our drill holes. There's one. Let's get that on a little bit more. There we go. Making sure as well that all all our joints are really tight. We should at this point be seeing glue squeezing out of the top and out of the bottom. And we'll take our damp rag, wringed out, clean damp rag, and clean that off, making sure everything is aligned. If it's not aligned, the wrong part is in the wrong place. So that's our finished box, ready to go on the hive. So after we finish putting our boxes together and putting the handles on, we're going to put the quilt together. They're the same dimensions as the boxes. So we have a back, a left, front, and a right. Just make sure that all our writing is the same way up. And we'll put it together just like we did the other box. So we're going to put glue along where the drill holes are. Making sure our work surface is clean. Even a little piece of sawdust could change the angle and make you drill in the wrong spot. Let's just check all our labeling is the right facing the right way. That's all good. Remembering that we would have been gluing this, so now would be the best time to wipe these all down with a damp cloth, making sure that there's no glue residue left, and then we'll clean that cloth, rinse it out, and keep it damp ready for the next element. The last piece of the hive we're going to put together is the roof. This is probably the hardest bit, and it's also the bit with most pieces as well. What we have is two components marked top. The very longest boards are the actual steep roof part. This thin piece is the ridge cap. Then we have two sides, just like the boxes, a right and a left, back and front. Just as before, we're going to line those all up. I've put screws in here to make it faster for myself. And again, we need to make sure that these line up to the holes. But our lettering is facing the right way at all times. Just clearing sawdust because it can put things out of line very quickly. Just a little teeny piece of sawdust in the wrong place. The next part we're going to put on is these slope to roof components. So making sure everything's lined up to me, so the front is facing me. These components say roof, right hand side, and that's the direction of the front. We can line those up, and we'll just flip it over upside down and line up all the holes. Easiest way is just to put one in, just a little bit, and then put the opposite hole in on the other side. So we have a diagonal pattern. And then we can put all the other screws in. It's always good just to check that you have put all your screws in before moving on to the next piece. This is the front. Now this is the back. The back is facing me here, so I will just put that on like so. Let's check that that's left towards the front, yes. And we'll do the same thing again. Just take two screws. Now we're just going to change drill bit. So I'm going to put the ridge cap on, which is these two long screws with Phillips heads, and that's your Phillips number 2. Again, this has got towards the front on it, so we'll just stick it underneath like so. Just want to double check this. So far, so good. Now we just have this last piece, which is labeled top. Have to join this together. So. Change back the piece a bit now to the square drive. We only need the Phillips for that one thing. Edges first. Outside edges first, rather. We would have glued all this, by the way, like I showed you in all the other videos, and all the other parts of the hive, how to glue. And we'll be cleaning this off as soon as we've done. This could just go, this just slides in now. Fortunately, this is the only way to do it. We can't put this on first, otherwise we can't attach the roof and have hidden screws. So the only way to attach this, I find, is to place my hand in here and lift it while keeping the board in place until you can at least get one screw in. You may need another set of hands to do this. Get one in one side, and just like the roof, we'll get one on the opposite corner. Once those two are in, it stays in place. Allows us to get all our other screws in. That's it. That's our roof. Just wanted to show you how you actually use the quilt box. Now the quilt box sits on top of the bee boxes, and inside the quilt you're going to take a pillowcase, standard size house pillowcase, which is I'm guessing about 320 or 330 mil square, and you're going to open that up and fill it with straw or sawdust, and that has to be dry. That acts as heat regulation and moisture regulation, and you change that intermittently. So after a while you feel inside, if it's really wet, throw it out. That sits inside the quilt box. on top of your box, just get on top of the top box. The quilt always stays as the top box before the roof goes on. You'll put your piece of fiberglass mesh over the top of the box, which is to stop wax from being attached to your quilt. And that simply just rests on top. Then over the top of that, your roof. You've got your base on the bottom, which I haven't put in this little clip. And that's how you use a quilt box. I'm just going to try and show you some close-ups of how we insert the screws and also how we use the plugs to fill the holes afterwards. I'll just take these out just to show you. So that just inserts into the pre-drilled hole, which is already in the wood, and we're just going to drill really slowly until we feel it bite and the gap close and the glue squeeze out when we're using glue. Now the plank covers are not the exact size for the holes and they need to be cleaned off afterwards. You would put quite a lot of glue inside and then push it in the hole downwards and then down. This can be quite tricky for some people. That's a pretty neat fit. And then what we're going to do afterwards is we're going to clean it up. I use a sander to clean it up, an orbital sander. You can also just use a chisel. This isn't going to work because it's not glued in, but that you can clean the top off quite easily with a very sharp chisel. I'll put a couple more in to show you. Some are easier than others. That one doesn't want to go in. Sometimes I use my chisel or a screwdriver to actually push it into the hole, but you will mar it. Okay, and again, you'd be chiseling this off the top or sanding down once the glue is set. I'm going to show you quickly how to put a frame together. I'm going to take these two end bars, just put a dot of glue in the middle there, maybe on the sides, but really only a tiny bit. Then we're going to insert like so. If they're too tight, don't force them. It's just a case of removing with a sharp knife just a tiny section of the outside until it fits. It's generally not an issue. And that's that one ready to set up. We'll just use this square. We make sure that that's square before allowing the glue to set hard. Do that again. Like so. When I make lots of these, I put brad nails in the top with a nail gun, as well as a little bit of glue. Makes it much easier. But if you haven't got a nail gun, you could also just get some super fine pin nails, talking maybe 15mm or 20mm long, and really as thin as you can get them, and just one on each side. Another way to do it.